Ciao ragazzi! It has just finished, as you know, tonight, Roma 3, Torino 0 at the Stadio Olimpico. I don't mean to sound like Jimmy Greaves and Ian St John in their day, but it really was a game of two halves, or a funny old game, as they would say. Of course, at the start of the game, we saw tributes to the late Davide Astori, whose funeral, as we know, was yesterday. Of course, he was a Roma loanee. You could see the Roma players that were hurt before the game. Of course, you could see Rajan Angolan and Daniele De Rossi holding back the tears. As for the game itself, well, in the first half, it really was Torino that were the better team. Roma just didn't seem to turn up the first half. They were making so many mistakes. It went 0-0 at half-time thanks to Alisson in the Roma goal. Made a string of good saves to deny Iago Folke, Belotti, even Acqua, even Belotti skying over that chance from 5 yards. Now, if that goes in, it goes in at half-time. The crowd are restless, they're booing. You know, they're bad enough at 0-0. And that could have made a massive difference to the game. You know, Walter Mazzarri would have said to his team at half-time in the changing room, this game is here for the winning. Because Roma offered very little. Cengiz, of course, and Florenzi looked dangerous for the Giallorossi. Patrick Schick, you know, he was in tonight instead of Edin Dzeko was missing. He was ineffective, and we saw that when we was at the game against AC Milan a couple of weeks back. You know, Schick, is it him, or is he just not suiting the style that Di Francesco or Roma play? But, you know, he was just ineffective. However, in the second half, though, it was a bit of a different story, as we know. Roma, though, came out a completely different team. You know, they started on the front foot, and after 55 minutes, they took the lead. A brilliant cross from Alessandro Florenzi, that man again, and Kostas Manlas with a towering header to head into the corner of the goal, just facing the cover, so past Salvatore Sirigu, no chance. He dedicated the goal, of course, to Davide Astori, as you can imagine, on his knees, pointing to the skies, which was a bit emotional for him, no doubt. After that, Torino just collapsed. There was other chances. Of course, Sirigu made a save from Kolarov to prevent it 2-0. But it would then be 2-0 on 72 minutes, and it was that man, the captain, Daniele De Rossi, that increased the Giallorossi's lead. Now, believe it or not, De Rossi scored his first ever goal as a professional against Torino in 2003. Of course, long-range shot. I remember watching that on Eurosport at the time. Those were the days. He hadn't scored since the last game of last season either, of course, when that dramatic final 3-2 win over Genoa on the last day in Totti's last ever game. We're going back down memory lane here, aren't we? He's then, of course, a flick on from Rajan Angolan. He just swooped low to slot the ball past Sirigu. Of course, De Rossi didn't celebrate either in respect to Astori. You could see Walter Mazzarri's face on the touchline. He's full of fire, fuming. When he was in England with Watford, not many people could understand, and when I say not can understand, I mean the British public. You know, they thought he's a bit strange, but this is the sort of thing you see in Italy every week. You know, Mazzarri, he's one of those, you can never second guess the mind, you know, of his, you know, you got to say. After that, it really was damage limitations. You know, Torino pushed forward, but they then in injury time got a third. Of course, from a corner for Torino, Roma hit them on the break. Good pass and good charging run from this man, Rajan Angolan, who was on his game tonight, the Ninja. He set up Pellegrini to make it 3-0. And in the end, the scoreline, you could probably say it was harsh, but in the second half, Torino just collapsed. It was far too easy for Roma. No doubt that Eusebio Di Francesco would have had one eye, of course, on Tuesday's Champions League game against Shakhtar Donetsk in the return leg, where they're 2-1 down, because, of course, he then took off the likes of Kevin Strootman, as well as Patrick Schick as well. He made a few changes, so I think they seem to have relaxed it a bit, but in the end, a convincing win for the Giallorossi, and an emotional night, of course, because of Davide Astori. If you're Walter Mazzarri, on the other hand, well, I don't know what it must have been like at full time. I mean, he walked down the steps at the Stadio Olimpico towards the dugout before the whistle was even blown. You could see by his passion and his arm movement on the touchline, he wasn't happy. A very disappointing one for the Granata. You know, they were going well under Mazzarri when he arrived. Since they lost that Derby della Molte Juventus 1-0, it seems to have affected them. They have not looked the same ever since, Torino. I'm sure he'll carry out a post-mortem with the team, which would be interesting. I'd like to be a fly on the wall on that one. But it is Roma, though. They get the win. They consolidate their third place. Of course, Inter Milan do have a game in hand because of last week's postponed game. But they will remain this weekend in third position, still above Lazio, which will go down well with the bragging rights in the city of Rome. And we talk about those postponed games, of course, because of the Davide Astori's unfortunate death. It has been announced today by Serie A Calcio that the games will be played on 3rd and 4th of April. There has still been no confirmed date yet for the Milan derby. I'm guessing that's probably going to depend on AC Milan. They're pending their European commitments, but it looks like might all be over by Thursday, but that's another matter. So thanks for watching this episode of Talk Calcio TV. Tell us what you thought of tonight's game. Roma, were they worthy winners? Torino, too many wasted chances. What will Mazzari be saying at the full time? Tell us what you think. Like, comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. Talk Calcio TV on YouTube. We will speak to you come Sunday after the Napoli and Inter game and give our reaction to all other results. Arrivederci. Ciao.